Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel. As preppers, a lot of the time we tend to focus on the big, more obvious things like food, water, and defense. And while some of us do put a little bit of a focus on hygiene by getting things, like soap, hand sanitizer, and wet wipes, many times a big thing that we overlook is keeping our clothes clean. And that's important for more than just not smelling like a moose and scaring off everybody around you. It can have big effects on your health and well-being long term. So today we're going to talk about a few different ways that you can do laundry off-grid. It's going to have some nicer, more high-end options, then also some more budget-friendly options as well. And the first of the off-grid laundry methods that we'll talk about today is the old-fashioned washboard coupled with a clothes wringer. So what a washboard does is it gives you a pretty rough surface to remove different kinds of stains from your clothes and also work other things like dirt out of it. And then the wringer's just going to let you remove as much water as possible from it before you rinse it out to get all the soap out. And then also it's going to make drying it on the clothesline a lot easier as well. And in addition to your washboard and your wringer, you're also going to need a couple of wash basins as well. Now there's some people out there that do their laundry like this all the time, and for that they build a special stand for this clothes wringer. And to be honest with you, if you're going to be doing it a lot, that's a much better way to go than to have it mounted on the side of your wash basin, just because it moves around a whole lot. First of all, I can't put a whole lot of water inside of this basin just because I don't want the table to break and crush my foot while I'm standing here. But also, it's going to be a little bit rough from a balance standpoint, whereas if you had a stand for it, things would be a lot better overall. Now, to use a manual washboard, you're also going to need one of these. It's a bar of laundry soap, and to use it, you just get it wet and then rub it over the surface of your manual washboard. Okay, after you get that coated with soap, take your garment. I already had a shirt soaking in here. And then you just rub it across the surface of that washboard. And you want to try to get as much of that garment scrubbed against the washboard as you possibly can. If you need to, go ahead and kind of turn it inside out, whatever you need to do. And then put it back into your soapy water and then wring a little bit of it out, so not as much soap is still in it when it goes into the rinse. Now, when using the wringer, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to set my washboard up here like a little table, and then I'm going to run this shirt through the wringer. Up here, I have a tension adjustment knob, but there's also this platform here, and I don't know if you can tell, but right now I have it set up so that any used water will go into the soapy water basin. And for a shirt, it's very easy. All you do, just set it in there and then crank it. And it should just go straight into your rinse water basin. Now, if you have something like a pair of jeans that has a larger button on it, then you don't want to run that larger button through here because you can tear it up. If you have one of those, run the legs of the jeans through there and then just reverse the crank so that you don't have to run that button through there. Then after that, just rinse it out. Might have to kind of wring it out a little bit a couple times. And then once you rinsed it off, then you can run it back through the wringer. Now, you could always flip this down so that your rinse water goes back in, but I want any water that I have already used to go into the soapy water basin. And also that just kind of helps reduce mess because I don't have water having to kind of clear this gap between the two basins. So I'm just going to run this through here and try to catch it as it comes through. That's easier with smaller garments like t-shirts. It's a lot harder with longer things like a pair of pants. Then after you've done all this, you can hang it up on some sort of clothesline outside or a clothes drying rack inside of your house. Now, you can use either like a clothesline like this that you set up ahead of time or just keep in storage until you need it. Or if you want to go the cheap route, you can also use paracord or some other type of similar cordage that won't break down outside, but a clothesline will probably last a whole lot longer. Now, if you're wanting something a little easier on the hands, then a manual washing machine's a good option. To use one, start by filling it up with warm water. I did mine about halfway. Then after that, add some laundry detergent. And with this, you can use just regular laundry detergent. And what's nice about that is that if you get the larger jugs, then you can use those and then store water for the times where you need to do laundry like this. That way you have water and you also have detergent that you can use. After you have the water and your detergent in there, then go ahead and add some clothes. I just have a small amount of clothes here that I'm going to toss in. Like some shorts, some t-shirts, things like that. And then once you have that, you're going to put your lid on. And this lid, it has this little kind of lever right there. Put the lid on top, twist it just a little bit, and then lock that lid in place. Then after that, we're going to come over here and we're just going to run the washer. Before you do that, make sure that the suction cups are actually holding on to what they're supposed to. And then I'm just going to turn it. And you can probably hear that it's sloshing around in there. And that's more or less just doing the same thing to your clothes that your regular washing machine would be doing. Now, you're supposed to do this for maybe around a minute or two, depending on the temperature of the water. If it's warmer, you don't have to do it as long. But also how soiled your garments are, maybe the type of detergent you're using, things like that. Like if you're having to use dish soap, I think you want to wash it just a little bit longer than that. Now, I'm probably not going to do the full minute just because, once again, I don't want the video to be too terribly dry. But once I've done that long enough, just going to let this set like that. And I am going to go ahead and take the lid off. Going to raise that lever up. And it kind of pops a little bit because there's some pressure built up inside. Just going to set this to the side, and then I have this drain plug here. So a minute ago, I made a mistake when I set this up. It's designed so that when it's sitting on a counter, you plug this in and it just drains right into a sink. I had it facing the other way to make it easier to use, and it just didn't work out. So what you're going to do next is you are going to plug in this part here to a little port on the bottom, and what that does is it just allows the water to drain straight into your sink. This may take a few minutes to drain out all of that old water, but you do want to let as much of it drain out as possible, because when you add clean water to this next for the rinse cycle, you want as little soap in there as possible so that your clothes don't come out all soapy and mess. Then after that's drained, go ahead and fill it back up with warm, clean water. After you get it filled up, go ahead and reattach your lid the same way that you did earlier. Just set it on top, twist a little bit, and then close that latch. And then from here, we're just going to do what we did the first time. We're just going to turn it for maybe like 2 or 3 minutes. This thing comes with instructions, so if you're unsure how long to wash, depending on how big the load is, things like that, then the instructions should give you at least some information that you can use. Then after you've turned it for a little while with that clean water in there, you're just going to turn or put your drain plug back in, turn it, and then it'll dump all of that water out. Now, one thing you might want to do when you're installing that drain plug is you may want to put like a towel or something underneath here. Supposedly they've fixed the design so it doesn't leak as much when you are attaching that, but it still leaks a little bit. And one thing I forgot to do is I forgot to take the lid off first. You're supposed to take the lid off before you drain. I just forgot to do that. Now, as far as usage tips for this, I think it'll work a lot better in something like a bathtub, and the main reason why I say that is it'll just be a lot faster to fill it up with water either the first time or when you need clean water when it's time to rinse everything out. I had to use a little sprayer attachment for the sink here, and it just took a while to fill it up. I think if it was in the bathtub, it would be a whole lot easier. Now, after this gets done draining and everything, you can treat this laundry the same way that you would the stuff that you washed with a washboard. You can run it through a wringer, then hang it up on either an outdoor clothesline or an indoor clothes drying rack, and then you should be good to go. So next up, we have probably the most budget-friendly off-grid laundry method, and that's more or less a plunger, and some buckets. This here is called the Layman's Mobile Breathing Washer, which basically means fancy plastic plunger thing. You can do this same method with a regular plunger as well. Just drill a couple of holes in it, and preferably use a plunger that's new, not one that's made the trip into the dark abyss of your toilet after you ate too much Taco Bell and stopped things up. You don't want to do that. That's nasty. But this one, it's a little bit nicer because it's taller. You're not going to have to bend over as much with this as you would just, you know, a normal plunger with a smaller handle. So how this works is you have a bucket, which is going to be your wash bucket, no holes in it, anything like that. Then you have more or less a colander that's going to help you drain water into your drain bucket, which has basically just one big honking hole in it. So I'm going to start off by adding a dry detergent sheet to my wash bucket here. I'm just going to do half a sheet. I think that'll work. Might be actually be a little bit too much because I'm not washing a whole lot in here right now. I'm going to go ahead and break that up. Make it easier for it to dissolve in the bucket. You can hopefully see I do have some soapy water in here. Now I'm just going to dump my laundry into this bucket here. And when you're doing this, like with all of the other methods, you want the water to be warm preferably. That's just going to make the job a whole lot easier. But if you can only use cold water, then you'll just need to do this for a little longer. Then use the plunger to agitate everything. Probably want to do that for at least a couple minutes. If you have a lot in there, just kind of swap things around a little bit. So what was at the top is now at the bottom, and then vice versa. Very good. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one with all the holes in it inside of the other bucket. And then I'm just going to dump everything out. Okay, and I'm going to use this bucket here to press it down and get rid of as much of that soapy water as possible. I'm actually going to take a seat, just make it a little bit easier on myself. So how y'all doing? Y'all doing okay? I feel kind of like I'm talking to the person in the bathroom stall next to me. It's just kind of awkward. So that's going to be good enough for government work, as they say. Now I'm going to get some more water. This is going to be my rinse water. Going to go ahead and pour that into the same bucket we used a minute ago. Set that aside, and then put my laundry into the rinsing water. And I'm going to do basically the same thing I just did a second ago. Use the fancy layman's plunger thing. Agitate that. Swap things around a little bit. And y'all, if you're doing this for real and you're not trying to make a YouTube video, you probably want to do it for a little bit longer than this. I just don't want it to be too terribly dry. You watching me churn the laundry for 30 minutes. Well, it wouldn't be that long, but y'all know what I mean. So, same thing. Now that you have that done, just pour everything in there. Good. And do the same thing. Press down. And then sit. And then once you get all this water drained out, you can just go ahead and hang them dry. You might want to run them through a wringer if you have that. But after that, just hang them dry, and then you should be good to go. Now, if you want something portable, then the Scrubba wash bag is going to be a very good option. This here is the Scrubba Tactical Wash Bag. It's coyote brown so that you can do laundry while LARPing, I guess. But more or less, this is a nylon dry bag that has these little rubber bits inside of it so that you can like work dirt and stuff like that out of your laundry. And since it's more or less a dry bag, you can also use it as that when you're not doing laundry. So this is a good multi-purpose item. You can use it to do your laundry, and you can also use it to keep your laundry dry and clean when you're not using it. So to use this, first off, you're gonna fill it with laundry, and this is gonna be a little bit limited as far as capacity goes. So really right now, I'm just gonna put a t-shirt and then a pair of jeans inside of here. And on the side, it has some little markings that you can use to help you determine how much water you should be putting in here based off of how much laundry you've put in the bag. Then after you get your clothes in there, go ahead and fill it up with water and just try to get it in the ballpark of what the markings on the side tell you. And when you're adding water, you don't want it to be too hot. You just want it to be warm so that you don't damage the bag. Then after you have water in there, go ahead and add some liquid detergent. Then after you get it filled up, you want to go ahead and close the bag. And to do that, it works just like any other dry bag. You fold this back and then fold it over itself a few times to make sure that it has a nice waterproof seal. And then to keep everything in place, just go ahead and use those clips to close everything up. Now, when you do this, there's going to be quite a bit of air inside of this bag, and that's going to make doing your laundry a little difficult. So what you do is you open up this vent on the side, and then you try to remove as much air as possible from the bag without making a huge honking mess. Then after you get as much air out of it as you can, go ahead and close that valve. Then after that, you're just going to lay the scrubber flat and then kind of more or less massage the bag. And there's a little window here that you can see what all everything's doing. You can see soap suds and all that kind of stuff building up. You can flip it over, position it however you need to. And like with kind of the other methods that we've done, probably maybe around 2 or 3 minutes or so, but you more or less just massage the laundry until you feel like it's clean enough for you to move on to the next step. Go ahead, set the bag upright, undo the little clips at the top, and then open the bag up. Let it drain into either a bathtub or sink. Then after you get all that old water out of there, go ahead and refill it with clean water to the same line that you did earlier. You want to close up your bag, fold it over itself a few times, get a nice waterproof seal, and then use your quick release clips at the top, clip those together, and then also use your air vent here on the side to get rid of as much air as you can. You just want to be sure that you don't make a huge mess while trying to get that air out. And also be sure to close the valve, because if you don't, that would be hilarious. Then after that, just the same thing that you did earlier, okay? Massage the bag, try to get as much clean water into your clothes as possible to help them get rid of all that soap. Probably do it for about the same amount of time that you did earlier. Then after that, just like you did a minute ago, go ahead, undo your bag, and then pour out as much water out of it as you can. After you get that water drained out, then you can wring out your clothes in like a sink, bathtub, or if you're camping, just somewhere outside of camp, and then you can hang them to dry, do whatever you need to do. Now, after you get done with the bag, probably pat down the outside of it first, but you want to turn it inside out and allow the inside of this bag to dry. Then once that's done, just turn it inside out again, and then it's either ready to use as a dry bag to transport your clothes, or you can use it for laundry again. Now, if we were in some sort of long-term grid down situation, laundry would just be one thing that we need to worry about. So if you want to see what you would need during one of those situations, then click here. Or if you want to see stockpile items for those kind of situations, then click here. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.